Three bets and opponent reactions. In online poker games, your pre-flop three bet is not just a bigger raise. It is a message to the pool, and the pool answers in patterns. If you understand how opponents react, you stop three betting on autopilot and you start printing expected value. We are not building a three bet strategy in a vacuum. Your sizing, your hand selection, and your frequencies should all be shaped by what villain does after you three bet. Do they fold too much, call too much, or four bet too much? Each reaction changes which parts of your range make money. The three reactions that matter. After you three bet, most opponents do one of three things. They fold, they call, or they four bet. Your goal is to know which branch you are in before you click the button, because the expected value of your three bet is driven by what happens next. First, overfolders. They protect their opening range by folding too many hands to pressure. Second, sticky callers. They hate folding and take flops with too wide of a range. Third, aggressive four-betters. They fight back pre-flop with merges and bluffs. Also pay attention to who is left to act. A three bet is not only about the opener. If there is a squeeze, happy regular in the blinds, your flat call range shrinks and your three bet range often gets cleaner and more linear. Expected value framework. Why they fold or continue. Here's the simplest expected value logic you should carry. When you three bet, you win immediately when they fold. When they continue, you are playing a bigger pot, often against a stronger range, and rake becomes more relevant. In most online pools, rake punishes weak calls and thin edges, so you need to be honest about which hands can realize equity after you get called. If villain folds a lot, your three bet does not need perfect playability. If villain calls a lot, your three bet range should favor hands that make strong top pairs, strong draws, and hands that can barrel across runouts. When opponents overfold to three bets. Overfolding is the most common leak in mass multi-tabling environments. Players open, they get three bet, and they do not want to play a bloated pot out of position. Your counter is simple. Increase your three bet frequency, especially in positions where you have post-flop leverage. Adjust your selection, add more suited wheel aces like ace-5 suited, suited broadways like king-jack suited, and some suited connectors like 7-6 suited, as long as you are not three betting into players who will four bet relentlessly. These hands are not chosen because they are pretty. They are chosen because they block continues and they retain equity when called. First, exploit. When fold to three bet is high, you can widen aggressively and size a bit smaller to risk less. Second, control. Keep your bluffs focused on hands with blockers and playability, not random offsuit junk. Third, stay aware. If the opener is an under-the-gun, regular, overfolding is less likely, so your expansion should be smaller. Context dictates strategy. Overfolding opponents give you permission to win pots without showdown, but you still need to respect stack depth. At 100 big blinds, three bet bluffing works cleanly. At 200 BB, opponents have more room to call and apply pressure later, so your bluffs need better post-flop plans. When opponents call too much. This is where a lot of players punt. They see a loose caller and they start three betting trash because, in their mind, they will outplay them later. That is hope poker. When someone calls your three bets too wide, you punish them by tightening and value skewing. A sticky caller makes your bluffs worse and your value hands better. You should three bet more hands that dominate their calling range. Think ace-queen offsuit, ace-jack suited, king-queen suited, pocket tens to pocket queens. These hands hit top pair with strong kickers and can go for three streets against worse pairs and worse aces. You still need some bluffs for range integrity, but choose hands that can continue barreling. Suited aces and suited connectors are fine because they can turn equity and pressure-capped ranges. Offsuit hands like king-jack. Offsuit often look playable, but they suffer from reverse implied odds in three bet pots. Relative strength is everything. First, exploit. Increase three bet sizing slightly versus callers, especially out of position, to deny odds. Second, post-flop plan. See bet less on low connected boards versus sticky ranges, and barrel more on high card runouts that favor your range. Third, rake note. Thin calls pre-flop become worse in raked games, so avoid building pots with hands that rely on marginal showdowns. When opponents four bet, often. Frequent four-betters force you to make real decisions. The response is not to stop three-betting, it is to split your range correctly and pick the right candidates to continue. Against a balanced regular, you need a coherent 5-bet value range, a disciplined fold range, and some 4-bet bluff continues. Hands like Ace-5 suited and King-5 suited gain value as 3-bets because they block pocket aces and Ace-King, and they can sometimes convert into profitable 5-bet bluffs if the opponent is overbluffing. Against a player who 4-bets and then gives up post-flop, you can call more 4-bets in position with hands that flop well, like suited broadways and pocket pairs. Against a player who barrels hard, you should prefer hands with robust equity and fewer dominated top pair scenarios. First, exploit versus 4-bet happy opponents. Tighten your 3-bet bluffs and add more hands that can call 4-bets in position. Second, discipline. Do not auto-stack off with hands like Ace-Jack offsuit. They are dominated when the money goes in. Third, awareness. If there is a short stack behind, your 3-bet and call decisions change because their jam range compresses action. What their reaction tells you about their range. Your opponent is giving you data every time they respond to a 3-bet. A quick fold from a regular in the cutoff often means their open was wide and their defend range is tight. A call from the big blind versus your button 3-bet often means they have condensed into suited hands and mid pairs. A cold 4-bet from early position is usually value dense in most pools unless you have proof otherwise. Use these patterns to choose lines. If their calling range is capped, you can barrel more turns. If their 4-bet range is polarized, you can defend by calling more in position. You are always trying to play against the weakest part of their range, not the strongest. Hand scenario. The button gets sticky. Game. 100 big blinds effective, 6 max online cash. Hero is in the small blind. Villain is a loose caller on the button who likes to take flops versus 3-bets. Hero hand. 8 of spades, 7 of spades. Pre-flop. Button opens to 2.5 BB. Hero 3-bets from small blind to 10 BE. Button calls. Flop. King of hearts, 6 of clubs, 5 of diamonds. Action. Hero checks. Button bets 7 BB into 20 BB. Hero calls. Coaching point. Versus a sticky caller, this check call is higher expected value than mindless C betting. Your hand has an open-ended straight draw and villain will stab wide when check 2 in position. You keep bluffs in, you realize equity, and you protect your checking range on a board that connects with their flats. On many turns, like a 9 of clubs or 4 of hearts, you can lead or check raise depending on how aggressive they are. Common leaks to cut immediately. Most 3-bet mistakes come from not matching your range to their reaction. Fix these and your win rate moves fast. First, 3-betting trash versus callers. You build big pots with hands that cannot win big or fold big. Second, auto-C betting every flop, especially in 3-bet pots where ranges are narrower and boards hit differently. Third, set mining in 3-bet pots. Small pairs do not automatically print. You need implied odds and a plan, not a prayer. Fourth, ignoring who is left to act, a cold caller or squeeze threat behind changes your pre-flop construction. Key takeaway. Build your 3-bet strategy around their reaction. If they overfold, widen and risk less with smaller sizing. If they call too much, go value heavy and prioritize hands that realize equity in raked online pots. If they 4-bet often, tighten your bluffs, keep strong 5-bet value, and choose blockers and playable hands for your continues. Every 3-bet should start with one question: what does this opponent do next? Now, let's test your edge. Question 1. What are the 3 primary opponent reactions after you 3-bet, and why should you identify the likely branch before you click? Answer: fold, call, or 4-bet, because the expected value of your 3-bet is driven by what happens next. Explanation: the article frames 3-betting as an expected value decision tree. Immediate profit when they fold, and a different, often tougher, more raked game when they continue. Question 2. Against opponents who overfold to 3-bets, what 2 key adjustments does the article recommend for exploiting them? Answer: Increase your 3-bet frequency, widen, and size a bit smaller to risk less. Explanation: overfolders give you more immediate wins, widening captures that expected value, and smaller sizing reduces the cost of your bluffs. Question 3. When a player calls 3 bets too wide, how should your 3-bet range and sizing change according to the article? Answer: tighten and value skew your range and increase 3-bet sizing slightly, especially out of position, to deny odds. Explanation: sticky callers reduce bluff expected value and increase value expected value. A bigger size pressures their wide continues and punishes loose preflop calls. Question 4. Versus frequent 4-betters. What does the article say your overall response should be, not the mistake many players make? Answer: don't stop 3-betting. Split your range correctly with a coherent 5-bet value range, disciplined folds, and appropriate continues. Explanation: the article emphasizes building a structured response to 4-bets rather than blindly tightening into passivity. Question 5. In the button gets sticky scenario, what is the coaching point on the flop after the 3-bet pot is called? Answer: checking and calling is higher expected value than autopilot. C. Betting because villain stabs wide and you realize equity while protecting your checking range. Explanation: the article explains that versus sticky callers on connected boards, checking can keep bluffs in, avoid mindless C bets, and set up stronger turn options. Study hard, play smart. That's it for now. I'll see you in the next lesson.